With Rami Khouri. He's a distinguished public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut and joins us from Boston, Massachusetts. Rami, good to have you on this news hour.
Thank you.
This is Blinken's fifth visit to the region. Are there any hopes here that he's going to bring about some sort of resolution, a resolution that at this stage is desperately needed in Gaza?
Well, they're working hard. Everybody's working hard. The Americans, the Saudis, the Qataris, the Israelis, the Palestinians behind the scene. They're trying to figure out if they can bring together three different dynamics. One of them is the ceasefire, which would move right to the exchange of prisoners for hostages. The second one would be some kind of longer-term agreement on how to move towards a peace process seriously, but that's way too complex to do now. And the third one is a Saudi-American agreement on the Saudis normalizing ties with Israel if a Palestinian state is going to emerge from this process, and the U.S. would then make a security arrangement with Saudi Arabia. So there's three very, very complex, important dynamics that they're trying to reconcile altogether. The United States has never shown the ability to do this kind of very complex trilateral diplomacy. You have to give them an A for trying, but they don't seem to have made it clear if they are willing to use the pressure that only they have to push the Israelis to agree to the ceasefire in Gaza, open the humanitarian routes, allow the Gazans to try to resume some kind of normal life, which is never going to be normal because the buildings and the streets and the services of Gaza are pretty destroyed. But the U.S. has to really make tough decisions about how far it's willing to use its influence with Israel, because it's the only one who can really influence it.
Yeah.
Netanyahu put some tough terms, but he's going to have to compromise. Everybody's going to have to compromise at some point. But the chances of this happening are slim.
Yeah, and that's the real issue here, isn't it? The compromise, because you talk about the complex details here. But Israel has particular red lines, so does Hamas. And it seems at this stage that no one's willing to budge. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what's happening is that thousands of people in Gaza are bearing the brunt of this.
That's right. But you have to keep in mind that we don't have the full views of Hamas and the Palestinians as a whole. And the Israelis have stuck to their hardline military approach. So the point is, we don't know what compromises they're willing to make. And it's everything now that's being said is speculation. But what we do know from previous examples is that they will all make compromises. They have to decide what's the critical thing. If the critical thing for Israel is to get their hostages out, they will compromise on the ceasefire, on getting the troops out or whatever. If the critical thing for Hamas is to get a ceasefire, stop the bombing and destruction of Gaza, they will make compromises on this. So this is the craft of mediation, and the Americans are trying to figure out how to do this. The Qataris are much more sophisticated at doing this, so that's why they're all working together. The Egyptians have had a lot of experience mediating between Palestinians and Israel. So I wouldn't take at face value whatever you hear from the Israelis right now. Hamas, we only have secondhand reports what their views are, and the Americans are just talking about ideal situations which they don't really have the capacity to bring about by themselves. But I think this is so critical to keep this process going, because only by people talking to each other can they figure out if there's a place where they can all meet, reach an agreement, satisfy their basic needs, stop the war, and move to a situation where normal life can resume in Gaza, and possibly a negotiation for a long-term peace agreement. These are really, really tough issues.
Tough issues, and diplomacy doesn't work until it finally does. Rami Khouri, thank you as always for your analysis.